Get out of the comic and make the guys wear high heels, make them wear corsets, make them wear tube tops. Let's see how far they get robbing a bank or trying to stop the Joker in really bad pinup heels and drafty.
Harley's original outfit was very practical. She actually had flat-footed wear.
Yep. I'm pro pants in general, so when there are pants, I'm much happier with the whole thing. You know, because that argument comes up a lot. I'm like, well, it's supposed to be a fantasy. I'm like, yeah, but why is the fantasy always pantsless? With like, you know, those heels that are like, no, like those are heels for a really specific activity, and walking and kicking people is not the activity.
Honestly, the only time I've ever seen that in action correctly was RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes.
Drag queens really do know how to fight crime in high heels. So if you're going to do a comic, just put drag queens in it, and that will be much more factual.
The character might go Lane, I understand why she's running around in heels and skirt. That's her job.
Yeah.
But it's the characters that you just have stripped of all their power because you would much prefer them to just be Stepford characters because they're nothing left of their lives.
Although really, when did you last see a journalist, a woman working as a journalist in a tight skirt and high heels? You know, these guys are not looking at real women.
I also agree with Trina that it's not even really sexy as far as I'm concerned. I think it's shorthand for sexy.
Yeah.
But it's not actually very appealing.
Yeah.
It's just lazy character design.
I do think it's interesting too, and then we'll definitely get to another question, but I have seen the argument made, for example, with the Power Girl and stuff, like, she's using like the sexy outfit to like distract the criminals. And like, if that is true, then Batman should be like striking a cheesecake pose. Batman is disarming and his raw animal magnetism. You then had a question.
Hi there. Yeah, no, I actually had a comment. Hi, I'm actually Alexis Hernandez. I was a contributor. One thing I wanted to comment on is it's kind of frustrating to have the concerns dismissed because it's like, oh, well, you're a girl and you're not usually, girls just aren't into superheroes. But it's like, well, that's not true because I love Batman the Animated Series. I love Teen Titans. I love Young Justice. But in those, they can't rely on the overt objectification, so I feel like they're forced to develop the character relationships and the characters themselves, and so I enjoy that. So when it's just dismissed as you're not into superheroes, it's like, well, no, wait a minute. No, that's not entirely the case.
And they're like, oh, it's just not for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it could be. It could be for everyone.
I would really love someone to explain to me how stories that are basically mythological, like hero archetypes, are not for everybody.
Yeah.
And if you're not writing one for everybody, then what the hell's wrong with you? Because like, that's what stories are supposed to, you know, like, so if you're doing anything, what's not for you? Well, that's awesome. It's a mainstream, like, that's what the industry, you know, kind of is focused around, these two major companies doing this stuff. I'm like, well, then it kind of is your job to make that for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, Greek mythology was for everyone. I mean, how many like awesome women characters in that Greek mythology like kicked Zeus's ass like 3 times a day? Yeah, I mean, seriously, I think we just kind of forget where the hero's journey and all the archetypes have come from, and it's not, you know, just one gender, and it is for everyone, and it can't be for everyone, and I think that's one of the purposes of Womanthology is we wanted to show people, especially because we had the heroic theme, that we wanted to show people these are all the different things you can tell the story as, whether you want to do a superhero thing, whether you want to do some sort of steampunk type story or a giant crab attack, I don't care. Like, there's plenty of stories to be told.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this giant crab attack. Yes, in the white shirt, yes, ma'am.
First I just wanted to say that it is not true that women can't write those types of action properties. I'm actually a writer on Transformers Prime with 2 other women who are actually writers. And the other 2 women have wrote Young Justice and write lots of animation for superheroes, and we write boys action and giant robots punching each other. Just, there's still that thought that it's like, why can I write superheroes in television? But then when you get to comic books, it's a little bit like, well, you know, I don't know if I can write Superman. And it's like, well, but we wrote Superman. But I wanted to ask the question, because the thing that seems to be frustrating me in comic books is that you get these big pushes, like when Marvel did the girls' comics, you know, and they push like female creators, and then they just, you're right, they just drop out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Marvel did the huge like Women of Marvel thing, and I was like, yes, this is so awesome. And then they went to Heroic Age, and like all the, not just the female creators dropped out, but like all the female characters like just fell off the page. And then New 52 was like, yeah, it's a whole new thing. And then the female characters just tanked, you know? And I'm just wondering, do you guys have any plans? Because Womanthology seems like such a great opportunity to showcase all these women. What's the next step
The
for you
next
guys?
step is something we can't talk about yet. Because it's going to be announced in a couple of weeks. But yes, there is in fact a very big next step that I can only just say that about. Because if I say any more, I don't know kick my butt. But yes, I mean, the point of Womanthology, especially after it became such a sort of big deal and how meaningful it's been to so many people, there was no way that we were going to let that just sort of like die off. Be like, okay, it's one big book, yay, you know. So aside from just obviously wanting to do more books like that, there are a bunch of things that we have been talking about, and like I said, there will be one fairly large announcement in the coming weeks. It'll be coinciding probably around the time the book comes out, which is also Women's History Month. So yes, so just keep your ears peeled for.
I think also, I think it's up to you guys to start being really freaking vocal. And I'm not kidding. Write blogs, write letters to the actual comic book companies and demand that they have the characters that you want. I mean, women writers and artists aside, like if you've got a favorite woman artist or writer, talk to them and say, hey, can you please write this comic, or can you please do an original series, or give them support. Because, you know, I'm not saying I'm super vain, but I do totally appreciate it when people come up to me and say, I like what you do, and it keeps me going. Because if you kind of feel like no one's reading your stuff, you don't have that, you know, momentum to keep doing it. And encourage new writers and new artists to get out there, get their stuff on DeviantArt, do their own comics, do their own Kickstarter stuff. That's how people get discovered by the majors as well. But just, you know, complaining is one thing, and I do a lot, trust me. But complaining in a way where a lot of people can also comment on it, like I said, blogging or tweeting, or getting on social network in some way, so a vlog, a podcast, and be vocal. Because the problem is, I think a lot of the majors just don't think we're out there. And unless you kind of like,
go away eventually or something.
Unless you're a huge ass squeaky wheel, they're just gonna be like, and have everybody talk. I mean, this isn't just on women. I mean, guys, if you have your favorite female character you want to see actually be in comics, really be vocal. Tell your comic book stores and publishers that you want this stuff, because it really is about supply and demand. It's not just about gender, it's about money.
Make sure that you know, Twitter stuff and talking to the publishers, like to a certain degree, it's going to fall on deaf ears because they've got like 1,000 emails. Talk to your retailers. Tell them that you want this stuff. Like, because if they don't know that you want the book, then they don't know to order it, and it becomes this whole, you know, effect that things don't go. So talk to them. Don't be afraid to go to the publisher shop. But you know what? I really love that because they talk directly to the publisher. They have a person that they talk to. You know, they tell like what they like about the books, what they don't like about the books. Like, there's a whole thing there. So let them know. Comics is one of the few places where you really do still have that direct contact with, you know, people who actually buy the books and distribute them to you. So you can really make a huge difference by telling your retailer, like, I really love this that you sold. And if it's not superhero comics, and that's a lot of their business for a good reason, because that's where a lot of the money comes from. But if you'd like to see other stuff, let them know.
And let them know on Twitter. Almost every publisher, every editor that's in charge of comic book companies is on Twitter right now. That's like a great way to stalk people.
Yep.
I mean, talk to people. So use that because it's free, it's
Just
quick.
don't yell at us, because that would drive me lazy. But yeah, I mean, actually, that's true. I have Twitter, like, I know you have Twitter, like, you know, people linking me on there, you know. And the thing is, like, you do see that stuff, and it does matter. I mean, you care about the books that we're putting out and what people are responding to, so it does matter.
And truthfully, you know, we're here, this is Image Expo, it's all about creator-owned comics. Like, if you are, you know, reading characters that are owned by big publishers, you know, to a certain extent, they own that IP. But if you're creating IP, or for example, if you look at the Glory of your launch, then it just like there are new female heroes coming out. You know, you can there is a publisher that is open to your ideas, and then people sort of have to vote with their dollars to make sure you can keep that series going or not going. The avenues are opening, and even, you know, look at Kate Beaton, who started with a webcomic.